Maybe.
Hello. All right. I think we are live. It says we're live. Hi guys.
Yay!
You have
Yay!
to you have to excuse us today. We were technically challenged, as I mentioned. I could not figure out how to. Well, I muted Heather, and then I couldn't get her unmuted. And then we had Heather's face but no voice, and then we had Heather's voice but no face. Now
I'm here, guys.
we have all parts of Heather now. All right. I will, you know what? Can you see us? Is what I'm going to say to see if people can see us. And hello, welcome to our live stream. I am currently trying to multitask right now, which is not working out really well. The live stream is offline. Why does it say offline?
That's weird because
They can see us. Yeah, they can see us.
Okay,
All right.
good. Okay.
Phew,
Okay.
I'm not even gonna try. As long as you guys say you can see us, then we're good.
Yeah.
All right. So welcome to our live stream. This month we are talking about singing in the rain.
Yay!
We literally had a conversation, and I believe it was actually we were going through a list of.
This month
we were talking about.
Continue.
She
I'm just
sees
hitting buttons over here.
Nice. Hair looks cute. They see three of us, yes. But essentially we sat around, we had a list based off of what you guys had said, and we were going back and forth because we knew we wanted to do a musical this time around, and all of us adore Singing in the Rain, so we were like, let's talk about it. Hey, Mona. And we do have lots of people in the chat room, which is fabulous. This is going to be a good night.
Yay!
So, we like people. We do. Most of them. Hashtag not all.
Hashtag most.
No to all. Hashtag no to all people. Thanks for. Oh, you are welcome. Yay. We try to social media as much as before because I know we forget about stuff like this all the time as well. Like this one, it snuck up on us because we're like, it's not the second Wednesday of the month.
No.
Yes, it is.
Can't be.
But it was.
But it was.
Sorry.
So in case anybody doesn't know, my name is Jennifer. Here on YouTube, I am a vintage vanity, and I do this kind of stuff. And with me as hair and technical difficulties and jingle balls.
Big jingle balls.
My big old jingle balls. So with me as always are the brains and the beauty behind all of this craziness. So if you guys want to say hi.
Hi.
So literal. So literal.
I'm sorry.
Just ignore the ginger-haired
I
lady.
didn't know where you were going. You're like the brains and the beauty behind it. You want to say hi? Hi.
I mean, both of you guys.
I wasn't sure where you were going.
You're both good-looking, and you're both smart, which should not be a combination that occurs naturally.
It's going to be a good one tonight.
Yeah, which, by the way, for anybody, if you start to see Heather's screen shake a little bit,
Yeah. Poor Heather. Holding her
your
eye.
iPad.
You're propped, but you may fall at any minute. Prepared to fall.
Prepare for imminent doom.
Be ready. It's going to be one of those nights.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
I do not think we made any of our tops. No, this is Pug. Heather, who are you wearing tonight?
I'm wearing vintage Forever 21. And this actually is a scarf that came with my perfume. A random beret I found in a drawer. Hi, guys.
It's Heather from How to Be Fancy.
For fancy today.
We're fancy. All right. So, I was I don't know. Are we calling it a researcher? I don't know. I'm the person who looked up shit on the internet. See, this is the bad part about. Okay, for anybody who doesn't follow me on Periscope,
Jennifer, this isn't Periscope.
I know Periscope. I swear. YouTube, I do not.
Oh no! Get your media.
My worlds are crossing. Oh, people are talking about the squirrel print dress.
So cute.
Boob
That's
shot.
cute.
It was shot.
Boob shot.
Balls and boobs.
Got that.
That's the theme of the night. Balls and boobs. So normally I say, oh, Emily says I'm the one getting blacklisted tonight. Actually, I do think shit is on my approved list. Oddly.
Oh. You have a list?
I do. On my YouTube channel, I outlawed like 3 or 4 words that if they show up, they won't show up on my thing. Because I want my channel to be all about, like, you know, good energy. I don't want...
That's smart
you
of
know.
you. I like.
But sometimes words like bitch actually have context in a real conversation, which Emily found out last week. Last month when I blacklisted her for using it.
Poor Emily. Sorry.
No, we're sorry, Emily. Come back.
She'll be watching her language tonight.
Your mouth, young lady.
So normally I do things like say, hey, did you like the movie? Basically, I'm just going to answer for everybody. Yes, we did, because we are talking about the 1952 musical masterpiece, which is Singing in the Rain, starring Gene Kelly, Debbie Reynolds, and Donald O'Connor.
Yes.
Yes. Oddly enough, it was actually only a modest hit when it was released. It wasn't only until later years that it gained the recognition it deserved, and it actually is considered to be the best musical film that has ever been made. And the only awards that came out of the film were one for screenwriting, a nomination, I believe, and Donald O'Connor won a Golden Globe for his performance, and Gene Hagen also won had an Academy Award nomination. Gene Kelly produced along with Stanley Donen. What else do I have? Oh, this is what I found interesting is I love like in most musicals, I can't say that I love like every single musical number, but in Singing in the Rain, I do. I love every single one of them. Some of them more than others, but I love them all. But ironically, there are only 2 songs in the movie that are original to the movie. Most of the songs actually were from films from the late 1920s and throughout the 1930s, which I thought was kind of interesting given the period that the film was in. But they were basically just working from the songs they had already. The only ones that were considered original were Moses Supposes Erroneously. And
I love that scene.
and also Make 'Em Laugh, even though they do say it may not be completely original because it was based a bit like Be a Clown, which was in another movie. Let's see. Oh, I love this little fact. Okay. Everybody loves the vamp dance, right? With Sid Treese.
The trees.
Mm-hmm. This is your homework. This is everybody's homework. Go back and rewatch just that dance number, okay? Towards the end, when Sid Treese has got her body all up on him, she's kind of sliding down it, and it cuts really weird, and then it goes to another scene. Oh, Heather's already seen it. She's like my Homer son. That cut was because of, and I wrote this down because I thought it was hysterical, the Legion of Decency.
How is that a thing?
No, I'm serious. I'm like, it sounds like, like a villain from a comic book. And I'm like, more things need to call themselves legions instead of committees, right? So the Legion of Decency found that one of the movements in the dance that they had done was too provocative, too sexual. So they actually cut it out. And it's gone. Nobody knows what that actually was. But you can actually see like this really weird cut in the middle of the dance, which is hysterical. Because I'm kind of thinking, that's a very sexy dance. It's very sexy. MG Carter wants to be the head of the Legion of Decency when Donald Trump brings it back.
I did.
But she won't ban anything ever.
I think you need to add that to your list, Jen.
I think I do. There are so many facts about this film that I just kind of pared it down. So if anybody has stuff, feel free to put it in the comments. Some of the more, really well-known things are things like Gene having 103 fever when he was filming the whole Singing in the Rain sequence, which took about 2 to 3 days to film, even though some people said he did it all in one cut. Not true, actually. Debbie Reynolds, this was her big breakout moment, but she was not a dancer. She was a gymnast, but Gene Kelly really, really liked her and thought she would be able to pull everything off. Evidently, he at one point made a comment to her, basically, like, you dance like crap or something to that effect, basically insulting her. She was so tired and so upset that she was found later by Fred Astaire to be crying underneath the piano, and Fred helped her out with her dance moves. Jean later apologized for it and was like, yeah, I was kind of a jerk, and I'm surprised she even ever talked to me again. But everybody, that's the thing about this film, is everybody worked so hard. Gene Kelly did it with fever. Debbie Reynolds danced the whole Good Morning until her feet bled. Donald O'Connor was laid up for a week after filming the whole Make 'em Laugh sequence.
Very believable.
Yeah. The Good
He
Morning.
collapses on the ground. That was for real.
Yeah, that was legit.
That was legit. The Good Morning song is sung at the opening of Disney, in their grand parade thingy. Oh, and this was something I did not know, is that if you guys remember the party sequence at the beginning, the party where Debbie pops out of the cake. There's a woman that Donald O'Connor is flirting with and being like, oh, I can get you into the movies. Turns out that is his wife, Gwen Carter.
Oh, how funny.
I guess he kept his word.
Yeah, exactly. Make 'em Laugh is considered to be one of the best performances, and it is kind of like the peak of the mountain for performers. Not a lot of people have ever been able to replicate it. One person who did it fairly well was actually Joseph Gordon-Levitt on SNL. There's a little Tumblr post. But see, he takes a break to talk to some of the people on Saturday Night Live, so I don't feel like it really counts. But he does the flip and everything, so we'll give him that. Yeah. All right. Oh, more comments below. There are more Let's see. I'm just looking at comments real quick. Okay, cute hair, top room. Okay, so in the comments below, let us know if there are any other little tidbits about the movie that you guys can think of, and as well, sorry, somebody just commented, did you see Kurt Browning's skating rendition of Gene Kelly's Singin' in the Rain? I did, because I absolutely love Kurt Browning. He's one of my favorite ice skaters ever in the history of ever. I get so excited by him, I can't go high. And also in the comments, let us know your feelings about M3. Your feelings about Singing in the Rain. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to JL and Heather, and I know you guys both love it, but what is it about Singing in the Rain that makes you love it so much? Go.
Hmm. No, I think for me, it's probably because it was one of the very first musicals I saw as a little kid. And so, especially the song Good Morning. In fact, I still like sing that song to people on occasion in the morning, and it doesn't always go over so well. But I think there's a real connection between the music and the story, and that sometimes doesn't translate in musicals. And so I think that's what I love about it is they actually it tells the story instead of it just being a stop moment where we have a musical number. And that's what I think I connect to maybe a little bit with it. And Debbie Reynolds, I've always had a little bit of a lady crush on her. And and so yeah, and then Gene Kelly. He's got like the voice, something about his voice. So yeah, I think really the story connecting to the music is what like I've always been drawn to.
Yeah, I think for me, I think it was probably, musical aside, the first classic film that I remember watching as a kid, and we watched it all the time. Even my brother, who's a little bit older than me. I mean, we're like, what do you want to watch? I don't know, what do you want to watch? And being the time period that I grew up in, we basically had a catalog of VHS movies like recorded off the TV, and we literally had like a printout of like with the timing on each tape of where the movie started and stopped. You had to grow up like in the 80s to understand what I'm talking about.
And a Green Gables for me was that.
Yeah. So it was just a movie that even as a kid, it kept my attention. I feel, and I agree. I like the fact that the musical numbers continue the story, and it's not like a stop and there's a musical number and then the movie continues. It's all connected. And it's just a movie like whenever we were stuck in the house when it was raining, we put it on. Whenever I was sick, I would watch it. And it's a movie that as many times as I've seen it, because I have literally from the time I was a kid, I've probably seen this movie 1,000 times. Easy. I mean, we used to watch it all the time. I never get sick of it ever, and it's why it is like my hands down like #1 favorite movie ever made. Regardless of the fact that it's a musical or a classic or anything else, it's just one of those movies. Like I never get tired of watching it. I think has, even though it's a period piece for the 50s because it was done during the 20s, it's amazing, and the acting is amazing. And being that I never got to take dance because of a disability that I have always loved dance, and every time I watch it I'm like, I'm getting me a pair of tap shoes and I'm gonna be a tap dancer. And every time I would watch it, I was like, Mom, I need some tap shoes. She was like, no.
Oh my gosh.
That's what it is for me.
That just makes me think when I was little, I had tap shoes that I got at a thrift store. I can't dance. I'm like, have no like rhythm in my feet. And I would go on my grandma's front porch, and Singin' in the Rain was the song I always chose to tap dance to on her front porch. It's super embarrassing now that I think about it.
I would watch it, and especially if it was raining when I was little, I would watch it, and then when it was over, I would be like outside playing in the rain, and my mom would come out yelling at me like, get inside! And I was like, I'm singing in the rain!
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think this movie was really, for me, my first like moment where I truly got to know Gene Kelly and felt like forever in love with the man. I know I told you guys this at one point when we were talking that I did take a lot of dance classes, but I was never like a great dancer. Kind of like my singing. I'm very enthusiastic, right? But I'm a little bit better dancer than I am singer. I would literally, that scene and Make Him Laugh where he runs up onto the chair and tips it over, I did that constantly. Not only did I break myself at one point, I actually broke a chair, but I would repeatedly do it. Like, they would hear me downstairs, they would just thump, 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 like, stop! Make them laugh. And yeah, I think every kid who's probably ever seen this movie in the history of ever has stomped through the gutters in the rain, kicked the rain, and trying to recreate that. And it's never as, well, I guess even for Gene, it wasn't a great scene to film, but it looks so amazing.
And
so amazing.
May or may not have done that in my swimsuit while it was raining, which is why my mom would come out screaming at me.
Of course.
I will actually confess that I still do that. Not so much on the chairs anymore because I'm afraid I'm going to fall and I won't be able to get up. But yeah, anytime it is raining and I am not afraid, like I don't have to be somewhere, I will definitely stomp through and kick the puddles a little bit. In the comments, we have Susan says that the movie just makes you happy. And I'm so glad she said that because literally, like, I started making notes about stuff that I wanted to talk about. And number one, like, you can tell, like, how bad my handwriting gets because I started finding myself, like, I wrote notes, and then I was like, and just watched the movie. I can't. It just puts you in that space. It puts you in this almost, like, just happy, like, Technicolor bubble that you're just willing to live in forever. Emily says that her dad used to wake her up with Good Morning when she was younger, and it never went over well. There's a lot of talk about doing that with VHS tapes as well, and even a beta tape out there. We all remember beta tapes, so you're not alone, Mona. Let's see. Vintage Camper Gal, one of her movie rentals back in the day, they rented the movie in the VCR player and hooked it up to her antenna. Yep. And we all walked. I mean, that is the version of, like, we walked both uphill both ways to school. I love Gene Kelly even after he's mean to Debbie Reynolds, dedicated fan. I am, because you know what? Everybody can be a dick. Emily, ban me. But no, everybody can have bad days. Everybody can be a jerk, and especially when he's producing it, working with the choreography on hard, long days, it's going to happen. But the fact that he apologized for it and was like, yeah, I was a big jerk, to me that shows someone who is a little more self-actualized, which is very odd in an actor, I would say.
Both Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire were known for being pretty hard on the women, the female dancers, with the sequences and making them go over and over. And I know that I believe that Fred Astaire wasn't like the kind of go back and make nice kind of a person. He was just like, you better get it, or yeah, like, this is your job and you're doing it wrong. You're gonna do it my way or the highway. And I think that Gene was maybe not quite that harsh, but I do know that they both did have the reputation for just being really hard on the dancers.
But, you know, and that comes from,
but that's a dancer's background. That's
exactly.
Like a teaching dancer's background. I mean, when you've got that many people that you're trying to choreograph and you expect it to be perfect, and I think with the filming at that time, it's not like now where you can, you know, edit and slice things together. A lot of times those sequences were done in one take, and it was very expensive to continue it. So, yeah. But kudos to him for being able to make that.
But you know what? She brings up a good point, because I been watching or listening a lot to a podcast called "We Must Remember This," which is actually a suggestion from one of the viewers. And like some of the people, like they'll tell you stuff like Fatty Arbuckle and like stuff he did. I'm like, oh, now I don't like him. I can never like him. Like there's just stuff you can't unknow about people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to know more about this person.
Mm-hmm.
We always used to have a saying that I love somebody for who they're not, like who they play in the films, but who they're not.
They're not that person.
Yeah,
for sure.
Let's see. The vintage kitten, Yolanda says that she can completely picture the whole dancing in the rain. Smooth moves for sure. Louch the first wanted to go to tap dance classes after seeing this movie for the first time as well. I want to be in these kinds of movies but they don't make them anymore. No, they don't.
No.
I mean, I'm happy they haven't remade Singing in the Rain because they seem to be remaking everything, but
yeah. I thought it does make me sad that musicals are kind of a lost art and that people almost think that it's somehow like it's like funny and campy, you know, like a musical, like, oh, you know, and you only see them on like the Disney Channel, and even then it's like it's just not the same. If you have kids, you see them on the Disney Channel, unless you just really love the Disney Channel,
which I don't understand because Chicago was done really well.
But I think more because it was such a successful play.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just because the way they cast it worked, because if you think about it, you know, casting has a lot to do with it. And if you
Well, yeah, I think now we cast more based on a person's name and how much they'll bring into a film versus actual talent, and that just doesn't fly with a musical. It just won't work.
And
is somebody talking about Miss? 2 words. Russell Crowe.
And the other one had to shave her head and then cried about it, even though they gave her the out to not shave her head. And she goes, no, I'm a real actress. I'm going to shave my head. And then she shaved it, and then she cried for like until her hair grew back out. Like, oh, I had to shave my head for this role. I'm so ugly now. And I just want to smack her in the face. I'm like, you did it anyway.
Yeah, I would have totally recorded it though too. She was in it for the moment.
No sympathy. No sympathy for you.
I heard something from Heather.
Yeah, Moulin Rouge, that one. That's a pass on the musical, but really, I think those are the last two that I think have really worked well. Yeah. Phantom was okay.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe there just hasn't been enough hits with it for them to keep going. Which somebody, Hollywood, if you're listening, make more.
Was Singin' in the Rain a play prior? It wasn't a play prior.
It was afterwards.
It was afterwards, yeah. Because I saw it on stage, and FYI, if you ever have the chance to see it on stage, definitely go for it. At least where I was living at the time where we saw it, it was amazing. And the gal that played Lena Lamont did her voice perfectly. And I was like, is she going to do the voice? Are they going to do the voice? Because it's so iconic. Is she going to do the voice? And she did it, and it was perfect.
You would have to do the voice. I'm going to catch us up on comments really, really quickly. Greenio52 did a school performance of Singing in the Rain with umbrellas, and it was awesome. And Emily, piping in with my potty mouth tonight, says, Legion of Decency, not amused. And she said, just kidding, we are. Mona says, balls, boobs, and now dick. Oh, my. It's getting saucy up in here. Madeline adores Gene Kelly. Other people are missing High School Musicals for sure. Madeline is 14 right now and a freshman in high school, and this movie made her realize her dream is to become a Broadway dancer, singer, actress. That's amazing.
That's awesome.
Well, hard work, and you can do it, girl. Just follow your passion. Yep. People saying, live your dream, Madeline. Vintage Camper Gal says, dancers are perfectionists for sure. Emily's kind of giving another hurrah to Madeline. MG Carter, so glad you brought this up. She says when the studio system died, those kind of movies died with it, which is absolutely true. But it was also one of the reasons why I love the plot in this movie so much, because it almost is like nudge, nudge, wink, wink to the whole like movie system, like with the contracted players, with the whole Lena Lockwood and Lamont, that they have a real life romance going on. The whole idea that you can hide who somebody actually is and create that whole background, like that whole story that Kelly talked about with like him and O'Connor's, the way they grew up, What's the line? It's decency? No.
It's he kept saying it always.
It's not decency. It starts with a D. Dignity.
It does.
Always dignity.
Yes.
And then it shows him doing all this other stuff. So it really just kind of is that whole wink wink to the whole studio system, which I thought was great. Let's see. The day of the contracted actors is over, which begs the question, is there value in contracted actors? I mean, I know this is kind of going off the about the movie, but
well, if you think about it, like things like you have companies, so like dance companies, comedians often like have like companies, so maybe there is some value in having that team camaraderie, but I don't know, like studio wise, I feel like that's a lot of control to give to a studio.
Yeah, I don't know. It's almost kind of like a two-edged sword, I feel like. I think, obviously if you're in high demand with your contract, if your movies bring in money, then obviously when you get close to the end of a contract, you're going to have the studios kind of fighting for you, so that's good. But I think that on the flip side, a lot of people came in for like 2, 5, 10 movies, and they would just turn out movie after movie after movie after movie, and it wasn't always quality, and like the parts that you didn't always get weren't that great. And so, you really, and I think that there were actors and actresses that this happened to, that they got stuck in these contracts where they had to do movies, and they were having to do movies that they didn't want to do. It wasn't anything that they would have ever done. They were horrible movies. They were horrible parts. They went off well. And for some of them, it really killed their career until they could get out of their contract and get somewhere else. So it's great for the studio. And yeah, it might be good for an up-and-comer if they can get like a 2 to 5 movie contract just so that they can get their foot in the door. But I think for the established actors and actresses, it really sort of hurt them in the long run.
Yeah. I wonder now how
older.
That's what I was gonna say, like age-wise, diversity-wise, female-wise, I just don't know that there would be enough people at the top really thinking about those things when it came to like a studio. I don't know. I think we would have some diversity
issues. I think those
issues.
Contracts really were more for the benefit of the studio than for the actors and actresses, but at the same time, it was sort of like that golden era, and it's sort of like that's gone now. And some of those studios like RKO Pictures, it's like you think about all the movies that they put out that everybody just loves, and a lot of that had to do with the actors and actresses that they had on contract. And once you don't have them anymore because they go somewhere else, then your studio's dead.
Yep. Because I was listening to a podcast about John Gilbert, who is actually who's along the lines of Rudolph Valentino as far as being a silent screen like god. Like people adored this guy, but he couldn't make the transition into talkies. And it wasn't so much the Lena Lamont Wait, is she
Yeah.
okay. Issue, it was the acting, like the problem that Don had, where he was trying to do that, like, the continental accent for everything, the rolling of the R's, and,
Yes.
and part of the problem was, like, with John Gilbert was, like, he'd say things like, do not make me be so cruel. So it was the way in which he was acting, which worked great for, like, silent film, but just didn't transition into the talkies really well. And because he was contracted, he couldn't get out of his contract. But the studio didn't like him anymore, didn't want to work with him, so basically they were just letting him ride out his contract, because they were kind of being jerks, because they didn't there was a whole storyline there, but essentially they wouldn't release him because they didn't want him to be able to find work somewhere else.
Yeah.
So like you said, for the older, more established actors, that can be a really real problem. But I do wonder if some form of it for, like, beginners wouldn't work somehow, because it definitely get them into films and get them out into the public eye.
Maybe that's what
They
YouTube
don't
did.
have to.
Oh,
They
yeah.
don't have to. What am I trying to say? They don't have to audition. That whole audition process is gone. You just get plucked. You're like, oh, put so and so in this movie, and they're on contract, so it's just sort of done.
Yep.
So you don't have that whole process that there is now. Like, actors and actresses, they sort of own their own self and their career, but they have to go in and audition for things, and it might be a part that they really want, and then they don't end up getting. So it's kind of like, I still feel like those contracts are really geared more toward the benefit of the studios than.
And if they didn't
actors.
like you, you were screwed if you said something wrong or did something wrong. Somebody else had a comment about that. Things just don't work that way anymore. Contracted entertainment is actually working in Korea. The whole K-pop industry is structured like the movie studios used to be. So it would be interesting to know if there's some of those issues there as well. Let's see. Business Bunny Kisses Monica says entertainment and humor is different nowadays. The classic style of musicals just wouldn't do as good. I feel like there needs to be more of us. I feel like there is a lot of us out there. Maybe just not enough. Jana says that musical remakes that came out a year ago, the Into the Woods, wasn't too bad.
I didn't see it.
I didn't see that one either.
I saw it when I went to the movie. I went to the movies when I was super tired after spending a whole. I know my life is so rough. After spending a whole day at Disneyland, I was like super tired. But I didn't want to go back to the room, so I went to the movies and I fell asleep. But that probably has less to do with the movie itself than,
Yeah,
me.
I think a lot of it has to do with the storyline of the musical, because I feel like just because it's a classic movie doesn't mean that the musical necessarily is really that great. There's other sort of, like, I don't know, like musical or just movies with a lot of music numbers in them that even though they're classics, I'm kind of like, I could take it or leave it. I think a lot of it has to do, like, I feel like for me, one of the things that I love so much about this movie is the fact that the musical numbers do take you into another part of that story sort of seamlessly. And even when they were getting to the filming process of the movies, like the different scenes, like you got pulled into that and to that number. So it's like there were multiple movies within this movie, but it was all done seamlessly. And even sort of like when Gene Kelly was talking, there was sort of the flashbacks. Everything was just very seamless, and I don't feel like that's very easy to pull off, and I don't know that a lot of movies could do that really well, and it worked for this particular movie. So I think with musicals, a lot of it has to do with the storyline and where the story is taking you and how well the musical numbers are really done.
Yeah, I
Well,
think a lot of like modern day actors too, like you're trained so different than a classical actor would have been trained. Like
Yes.
it's almost like you need the same creativity that you get and you find in a musical, but done how we would do it today. You know what I mean? And I think
Hmm.
people aren't willing to take that risk because it's not going to bring in the
Yeah.
money that an action film can bring in.
Hmm.
I
And
think
actors and
I think oh,
I was just gonna really quickly, actors and actresses had to be able to sing and dance.
Mm-hmm.
That was part of it. It wasn't just acting. There was that element because there were so many musicals.
Mm-hmm.
and I do think we are seeing a little bit of a reemergence of some of those actors that can do that. I mean, if you think of people like Neil Patrick Harris, he's
Mhm.
kind of
Yeah.
made it his staple to kind of bring back a little bit of that, especially with his, what is it, the best show ever or something like that. I don't know if it's like a variety show, but also even
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
thank you very much. Um, and even to a degree, Hugh Jackman. So, which he's taken a lot of flack for the whole musical thing, but I do feel like there are some people that are trying to bring back or make more relevant some of those talents as well, which I think would be an amazing thing to do. Um, but with the movie itself, I think one of the reasons why its longevity is so good is because of the storyline. Yes, it is a romantic musical comedy, but everything historically in the movie is, to my knowledge, historically accurate. I mean, The Jazz Singer was the very first synchronized full-length talkie movie that was ever made. It was what changed the movie industry.
Mhm.
Silent film stars had these problems. And the transition, these dialogue coaches popped up out of nowhere to give training to a bunch of actors to try and help them make the switch. The issues with the studio heads and a contracted player like Lena having control over the studio heads it was a problem. Now, I think the studio head that was portrayed in the movie was very like PG or Disney because he was very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Which from
Yeah.
everything I've read, not the case for the most part.
Yeah.
Um, just to catch up on comments, Vintage Camper Gal says Elvis was actually contracted with a very, very sad face. There was some good things in there he did. MG's question is, do you think Lena Lamont is supposed to be anybody in particular? Could it possibly be Mary Pickford? Thoughts?
Mm,
I don't know.
I have not read anywhere that she was supposed to be somebody in particular because I think it was a large problem for a lot of them. I know a lot of actresses like Mary Pickford were actually some of them starting to decline a little bit during that time period, which also made the transition harder because some of them, if they were starting to decline or if they were starting to get too expensive, to pay to be in a movie, the studios wouldn't want to put the work into transitioning them, which was also, again, goes back to the studio system. Emily says a lot of exploitation of the talent. Yeah, we could do a whole live stream on that alone. Mona says, exactly, look what they did to Marilyn so many times because they didn't like the things she said or did. R.I.P. Marilyn. So true. MG says Jean Harlow talked like Lena Lamont, but she made the transmission from silent film to talkies. Madeline says she is gonna bring back the Hollywood musicals for us. We just
Yay!
gotta wait a couple of years.
Yeah.
Oh,
Nope.
MG was reading up on Mary Pickford after Sunset, watching Sunset Boulevard. That's a really good film, by the way, and that's what made me
Mm-hmm.
think of it.
Mm-hmm.
Ready for my close-up.
Yeah.
Um,
I think Lena's character was probably just a representation of
Kind of the
the
whole.
sort of largely like you've got these actresses who were doing these silent films and it really didn't matter what you sounded like, as long as you could put on the show, it really didn't matter. So, once all of a sudden now, like, oh my goodness, everybody has to hear our voice, then it was sort of like, what are we gonna do?
And I think even it was a really awkward transition because you've got not only are you using your voice, but you're overacting in silent films. So you've got that element, and then you've got a lot of actors who came from theater, which again is overacting. And so I think it took like that whole chunk of like the 30s to really like transition into more of the subtlety of acting.
Yeah.
Which
We
is
don't see that.
actually why Betty Davis had such a problem, is because she didn't do that acting affectation that everybody had at the time, so a lot of people didn't know what to do with her. So that's why you see a lot of her films like in the 30s, like, you know, not quite in the film or in the part she should be.
Yeah, and it's interesting because if you watch a lot of films from the 30s, you really sort of see it. It's still very like everything's really right up there. The energy levels up here, and the acting's all up here, and the way they're like talking to each other, it's all up here. And you're just sometimes it's kind of painful. You're like, and then
Bring it.
yeah, you know, then you can sort of watch, especially the actors who really like kind of came into their craft. You know, as the years progress, they get into the 40s and into the 50s, you really sort of start to see them really become like these really amazing actors and actresses. But if you go back and watch some of their really early films, you're just like, holy smokes.
Like, you're going to need to work on that.
Okay.
Like, I don't think that looks like you think it looks.
Yeah. But then, you know, the audiences were right along for the ride. So for them, like, it was probably just amazing that they could even hear these people, you know, in a movie theater when it had just been, you know, a piano player in the theater playing along with what was going on screen. So it's interesting for us to be able to go back and watch it and see that progression, but to be there, it was like the most amazing thing ever.
Well, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Like if you go back and you look at films, like maybe from the 80s, maybe from the 70s, when as a child you watch them, you're like, "Oh, this is awesome! Special effects are so great, and the acting is amazing." And you go back and you're like, "Oh my!"
Yeah.
And it's not just that whole. When you see something as a child versus as an adult, you will see it differently. Which, oddly enough, Singing in the Rain is not one of them. I think universally, you have the same experience at any age with that film. But a lot of them, it's just the progression of art through the years, and even to some extent fashion. You know, we're gonna look back at people who are dressed in a certain way now, and 10, 15 years, we'll be like, "Good Lord, what were they thinking? Leggings?
Yeah.
Crazy." Which, speaking about the fashion, I have to remember, if I can, to always rent versions on Amazon, because when I'm watching through iTunes, it doesn't let me take screenshots, because I was desperately trying to get screenshots of, what was her name? Olga Mara.
Yes.
The exotic actress, the one that, the spider web print in the back. Oh.
Yeah.
That was my favorite. And was it Zelda, the one right before her, that came out with the fan kind of cape? Oh, loved that the whole scene. But yeah, the spider webs.
I actually adored pretty much all the fashion that was in this movie, even the over the top fashion that was in the Beautiful Girls sequence, where they're like, and she's wearing monkey fur. It's like,
the sleeves.
The sleeves that you can hide things in.
Yeah.
Even all that, and the dripping with fringe dress, that was just gorgeous. And let's talk about Lena's outfit when she comes into RF's office with and you know, you guys, I do not like real fur, but like her entire outfit, the way the satin was going, I just literally was in heaven. Even the way that they had, and I think when you look at that scene where they pull up the curtain and you see Debbie and Lena singing, the juxtaposition of the way they are dressed. They just did such a good job costuming everybody and making them look so insanely good.
Yeah, and so true to like their character.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, did anybody else want Debbie Reynolds' costume when she was like the dancer girl and jumped out of the cake? Like when I was a kid, I wanted that costume so bad.
The basket and the hand. Yeah. Oh my god! I thought that was like the most clever thing ever. Like you could hide candy.
So bad when I was a kid, I was like, even now, like I would totally wear it, taking the kids to school.
Should be throwing candy out of it.
I'll throw streamers. Have a good day. Yeah.
Don't forget your lunch.
Mommy's free. Woo.
And I like that even in the choreography, especially in that number, that they really went for like the 1920s. Not exactly, but a lot of the movements were very, very much based on the dances of the time. I mean, and I think it's great the way they transitioned into the more modern dances as well, especially that vamp number. Mm-hmm. Good Lord. That is one of those scenes in that movie that just stick with you. And what's interesting is even though Jean Hagen won or was nominated for an Oscar for the film, after that her career really didn't go anywhere. But, Sid, one scene, she never speaks again, or never speaks at all, and her whoop. Sorry, it's a little, like, I'm sure a lot of people were like, whoop. But let's just have decency, get out of my head. All right. Before I get myself in trouble, let's update everybody on comments. Mona said Into the Woods was a little meh. And she also thanks God for Dancing with the Stars and their smooth ballroom dances. MG says there was a character in Funny Face. Oh, good Lord. It was not a person, it was not a cat, it was a box. That came tumbling down the stairs. I almost lost control of functions in my body. There was a character in Funny Face that was like that too, a model who looked elegant but had a horrible voice. And Emily says, excellent point about the overacting. I've often thought of that when watching really old films. MG said, when did method acting start? That's what Marilyn was getting into. Debbie Reynolds was not fond of method acting, apparently. And Mona says, can you imagine Joan Crawford in a musical version of Mommy Dearest? No, but I kind of want Madeline to go off and make that for us. Make that be a thing that happens.
No, yeah. We need that.
I don't know when method acting started. I mean, I think it was in the 50s, wasn't it? I mean, I know Marlon Brando and James Dean were really big into it, but it probably started prior to that. I have no idea.
Yeah, they're the two, though, that I think of first, like right off the bat, as far as that kind of goes. So that would 50s-ish.
Which is funny because sometimes, even with their method acting, sometimes I watch their stuff and I'm like, overacting, even with some of their scenes with both of them. So it's interesting how, even with method actors, they're still like that. And even now, like even today, sometimes I watch stuff, I'm like, overacting, bring it down a notch.
Isn't it realistic? We say as we could all act like professionals.
Yeah. Well, if you're on Periscope, you heard my beautiful singing, so if you are, okay, question is two parts, and for you guys in the comments as well. I have the comments over here, that's why I pointed over there. Who could this movie not survive without? And you can only pick one. And who, and I'm talking you can't pick somebody on the lower echelon of it, but who can the movie not survive without, and who would you pull out of the movie? Forced to. You were forced to. Somebody was like, you got to take somebody out of this movie. Who is it? And of the lead characters. Go.
I don't like this question.
Okay.
Ugh.
The one that I feel like I couldn't live without in this movie is make him laugh. I'm having a brain fart.
Donald Connor.
Yeah. Because I just honestly don't believe that there's anybody else during that time or even now who could do that scene that way. I think that scene was him. And I just don't think that you would have that, and it's so iconic, and it's been tried to like be recreated so many times, and it's just never been the same. So I think because of that scene for me, he would have to be the one, like he could never be replaced for that.
Yeah. I have a toss-up on that between either Jean Hagen because of the voice, and I think she played that like so, as annoying as she was, I think it was such a flawless, like there's not very many people who would have really gotten into that character like I feel like she did. But then on the other hand, there weren't a lot of actors that I think that could have pulled off what Donald did and make him laugh, and that's such an iconic performance.
Yeah.
That I think I don't know. Oh, that's tough. I'd replace Debbie though, even though I love her. I think part-wise, Ginger could have done it.
You are not alone. MJ also said she could replace Debbie. And this is all, we all know this is all with love, and she could not survive without Gene Kelly. So, I agree with Heather that Jean Hagen played the part beautifully, and yeah, I don't think we could remove her. I love that character so much. I know, I feel like I'm avoiding the question that I threw out myself. But I love that character so much because I feel like she was written so well, because even though she's written to kind of be like the platinum bimbo, and she's always like, do you think I'm stupid? She's not stupid at all. She knows exactly what is going on, and she is playing it off. Mm-hmm. And I think because of the way Jean did it, like every little nuance of it was hit, and I think she played that so beautifully.
Yeah, I found her character interesting because she wasn't worldly smart, and she didn't have a lot of like street smarts, but she was a businesswoman.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And it was interesting.
My favorite line of hers is when she says, "I'm not people."
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. She knew her place and she knew her value in that industry, and she was not about to let any group of men like roll over her career, which is interesting because as difficult as she was, and as like her voice was not that great, they made a ton of money off of her when she couldn't talk. So now all of a sudden she has to talk, and they're like, we could just replace your voice, no big deal. So it's interesting.
But I do have to say, though, my one person that would have to be there is Gene. To me, I can't envision this movie without him, because like I said, it's the moment I fell in love with him. He is just like every look, every smile, every movement of his feet just makes me go.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that as great as Debbie Reynolds was in this movie, I think that I don't feel like that role was defined by her. I think she was amazing and she was flawless and everything, but I don't feel like that role, she wasn't one of the more like iconic roles from the movie. Like when you think of Singin' in the Rain, her character isn't the first one that sort of comes to your mind. It's Jean's character. It's Don Lockwood. It's Lena Lamont. It's Donald's character, you know, those are the things that really sort of like jump out at you, and it's not necessarily her character. So I think she's probably the one that you can really easily like pull out and replace with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Not that she didn't do a good job. It's just
Absolutely.
It wasn't her defining role like it was Gene.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think she brought a lot to the role. I think she made her character utterly charming.
Mm-hmm.
I adored her. But yeah, I being that I couldn't give up any of the others, it would have to be
Mm-hmm.
her, just because she falls at the bottom. Because I mean, like the whole like, because I can't stand him. I mean, I know I've said it like a gazillion times, but like,
Yeah.
just everything about her voice, about the way she was rolling over people, about the way she was manipulating people, it was just amazing. And that whole like scene with her, like with the whole microphone, is one of my favorite things in the world. Like, oh, I can't. What? You know that,
Yeah.
and the pearls that she's playing with. It's just it's just everything.
Can we talk about her makeup in that scene? I love how, because the whole French provincial scene, I loved her makeup in that scene because she had the little iconic little star, and I loved that.
Yeah.
Like that was one of my favorite little
The
moments.
detail that they did with this movie was just
Mhm.
amazing. No matter like what period they were, you know, dealing with, they just the costuming and the makeup and the hair, it was flawless all the way through. They were really, really meticulous with this.
It's so well researched for being like, oh, it's a fluffy musical. Like when you really delve into the details, you're like, oh yeah, that was a thing. That was actually what they did. So I'm like, I feel like it was sneaking in like history and learning and knowledge in, and people never knew.
Yeah. Like they did eyeliner on Gene Kelly just like they would have done in a silent film. Like he wore that pretty much the whole film, which is kind of a cool, like at first it threw me off, and then I thought, no, that's what his character would have worn as an actor then.
Yeah.
That's very cool. I actually never picked up on that. Now I'm gonna have to. Oopsie, gonna have to watch it again. MG said it was Gene Kelly's movie. There was nobody like him. She also says she agrees that Debbie's part could have been played by like Ginger Rogers or Betty Hutton. I do think one of the keys for that character was, though, that it was younger and more like that innocent. I believe a younger Ginger Rogers absolutely could have done fabulous.
Even like Judy Garland would have been like. Just that kind of a little bit more of that athletic type of dance, because of Gene Kelly being so athletic in the way that he danced. I think that could have been interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
What is, and this is going to be another hard question, and this is, we have Eduardo from Monterrey, Nuevo, Mexico. Sorry, I'm really bad with pronouncing things. But I'm so glad you are here. Another hard question, and this is going to be for you guys in the comment section as well, is, it's a two-parter again, what musical number can you not live without in this movie, and which one could you see taken out? And that includes, all musical numbers.
I know. Okay. I know which one that I could see taken out, because as much as I love this movie, it's always been the one where I'm sort of like, I love it, but I feel like it's going on too long, as beautiful as it is, which is the scene, it's almost kind of like the ballet-esque scene where she's
Broadway
got like
melody.
Yeah, she's got like the long flowy thing, and they're sort of doing this whole, like, when he sees her, the one gal like standing there, and then it sort of changes and she becomes somebody else, and they're doing, I just sort of, I don't know, just I think for me, and I've always felt this way about this scene, is it just felt a little too long. I don't know. It's just not my favorite, and so if they shortened it or even if they cut it out, I wouldn't be like sad. I don't know. It's a beautiful number, and like the way where he gets like wrapped up with her in her little tail thing, and he's holding her, and just like the way like she held like her feet and everything was great, but it's just not my favorite, and I've never really been that into that particular scene. Um, but yeah, I have to think about which
I
one
think I have to, yeah, I think I have to agree with that. The whole Broadway Melodies section is so long, even though I love Sid Charisse, like, I love her so much. And I think she, like, it's a beautiful dance, but I agree, maybe even just cut in half. But I think that was kind of her thing. If you see her in, I can't think of the other film, but a lot of her dance numbers are very long.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way. So yeah, probably that I could live without. And again, it's not something that necessarily is as close to the storyline as maybe some of the other numbers.
Yeah, because it was just him seeing her, and then he sort of goes off into like this like fantasy. So it's like you've already got this, they're cutting into Broadway Melodies, and you're seeing this scene that they're going to add to the movie, and now you're cutting into sort of like this fantasy that he's having about her as he sees her there. And so I kind of felt like it was, I don't know, like a little bit disconnected. It was just a scene where I'm not as invested into it.
Yeah, I'm going to be boring and completely agree with both of you. I think that whole scene could have just been the whole vamp dance, and I really think this was Gene being like, look at all the ways I can dance. This was like a little bit of a showcase for him, which I am more than happy to watch him dance, but once again, if I had to eliminate something, it would be that. The one I cannot live without, as iconic as Singing in the Rain is, it has to be Make 'Em Laugh. It is the whole mannerisms of everything from his face, and it's just played to perfection. And I mean, the guy was laid up for a week after it. And MG Heather says, "Are you thinking of Brigadoon?"
Yep, that's it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I feel like I'm sort of also leaning towards Make 'Em Laugh. I don't know. There's just something about that scene that I don't know. Just I think because for me, I believe everything that he's doing. Like he plays that scene so well that even when he's doing the thing with the mannequin, with it putting its hand on his knee, and he keeps going back and forth, you sort of start to like believe that it's really the mannequin doing it and it's not him. And then they like fall behind the couch and they're like fighting, and it's so believable. And it's just, like he's just that's why I can't live without him. Like he's one of the ones where he has to be there, and that is his part, and that's his scene, and it's just so amazing. And I just love that scene. Like you could go to a play and you could see Sing in the Rain, and people redo that sort of scene in the rain and jumping around and dancing and all that kind of stuff, and it's great. But that scene, it's more than acting. It's like the whole thing is just so seamless and perfect. I'm like, this guy is amazing. So yeah, it's kind of like those two, because it's Singing in the Rain. Like you have to throw that scene in there when he's out in the streets. But I don't know, Make him laugh. It's like there's just something about it.
I can't choose, guys. I can't choose between Make 'Em Laugh or Good Morning. Because connected so strongly, I think, with that, especially because as they're singing it at night. So, because she says it's 1 a.m., and that's like, I'm such a night owl, like I always connected with that, and the fact that they just start singing Good Morning really in the middle of the night, and I always loved that, especially in a classic film that was part of it. I don't know, and just the way that you can see their friendship together also in that like section, I think really kind of sets the tone for Jean and Debbie's like romantic element of the movie. I don't know. Maybe it's Good Morning. Maybe it is.
You would not be alone, because MG also says she loves Good Morning, and it sets up the relationships.
Oh, there you go.
You know, I, in general, love that scene because it's one of the very few, well, I don't know if it's very few, but I don't know, it was just really empowering that a girl and two guys got together and completely redesigned a movie, and she played just an integral part as the rest of them and making it all happen. Like, it wasn't oh, that's the girl. Ooh, she's coming up with stuff, you know. Which, you know, it doesn't really seem like it's a big deal, but given that, you know, the period that this film was filmed in, like, as an adult, it's like things like that I tend to realize a little bit more in watching some of the older movies that I didn't really pick up on before, is when they start doing those things where it's kind of out of context for the time period to be doing.
Yeah. Well, and it was okay for them to acknowledge her idea even at all.
And she was a nobody at that point still. Like, she had no screen credit. She was nobody in the film industry, and they took her, you know, ideas seriously. So yeah.
And it was also that idea that, like, their romance, it was based on, as you said, Heather, about, like, this great friendship. It wasn't just about, like, oh, I've fallen in love with this handsome man. You know, it was, we have more to our relationship together.
Yeah, because from, like, when they met, she sort of made him think about himself as an actor and his future as an actor, and really kind of made him, like, look within and figure out, okay, you know, especially as they found out that movies were changing, how does he fit in anymore? He thought he was like a dinosaur, like he was, you know, obsolete. But, you know, she found a way, like, hey, you can still sing and dance, so let's, you know, change it up. Let's figure out, you know, how to make all of this work.
Yeah. You know, I love, now that you say that, when they're in with the diction coach and it's Jean in and Cosmo comes in, I feel like that was almost like a little moment when they realized that what the diction coach was teaching wasn't going to work in the film, the whole Moses poses. Like, I feel like Cosmo was like, yeah, that's not going to work. Let's try this. Like, almost they were kind of making fun of that. Now that you say that,
well,
made me think of that.
Because the way they were, both diction coaches were trying to make them speak, I mean, it was ridiculous. Like, nobody at that time spoke like that, so to try and have them...
Oh, no, they did.
Well,
they did. No, that's the whole continental accent.
Yeah, but just, like, the constant, like, rolling the R's with, like, every word. I just think,
if you go back to that, like, that little time period, it smooths out a little bit. Yeah. In the later years, but right at the beginning, you really get those, like, overly enunciation. Like, everybody was trying to talk like they were British royalty, and then making it Americanized a little bit.
Sort of received by, you know, when they did the preview, everybody just laughed their heads off because it was the most ridiculous thing they ever heard. They're all looking at each other like, is this for real? So, I think that it was sort of, I mean, I know there was a lot of, like, over pronunciation back then, but I think that even when the diction coaches were coaching was still, like, probably a little overkill for what was being spoke.
Well, and that makes you wonder, I mean, going back to the John Gilbert thing, like, did he have, like, a really bad diction coach that was like, yes, you must pronounce it, you know? And if some of these people who are trying to make the transition failed basically because they were given a bad diction teacher who thought they kind of knew what the...
Yeah, what it should be when actually that wasn't the case.
Because that works, like, on stage for Shakespeare, but that doesn't work on the screen. for, the mass audience. Like they're probably not expecting that, whereas like if you're on stage, they're expecting it more so. So.
All right, so we are getting pretty close. I'm not really sure what time we started since we started late, but I think we are getting pretty close to, I'm probably going to guess we're over an hour at this point. So I'm just going to...
It's a lot of movie.
It is a lot of movie. I'm just going to kind of go through the comments really quick. MG says that the scenes with Sid Shreese always go on too long. Hollywood was a bit enamored with her. We had a rebooting of a computer. Mona was just about to ask for Brigadoon to be a classy chick vintage flick. And MG is like, yeah, Brigadoon's not my favorite musical, but the costuming is good. Her dad loved Sid Shreese, so I've seen all her movies 1,000 times. Not good as in authentic, but pretty. Mona says she loves the movies. It's one of her go-tos when she's not feeling well. And Madeline said her friends recreated the tap portion of Moses Supposes 2 years ago. Which is awesome. I have to say, Brigadoon, I have seen it in film and in a play. Even though I love to yell out, Brigadoon! Not my favorite movie. I like the whole, oh good lord, what is it called? It's not the Highlander series, but there's a book to movie right now that's kind of the same thing where a woman falls back in time. Outlander, yeah. I totally watched that.
I've read the book.
I have downloaded the books. I haven't read them yet. You'll have to let me know if I should.
They're good.
Okay.
You should.
Okay, there we go. I think Mona just likes men in kilts. No shame in that. My weak spot is Gene Kelly in a tight pair of pants, so.
Can we get Gene Kelly in a kilt? Maybe in a Madonna video?
Love it. Yes. Vintage Camper Girl says, happy holidays, everyone. See you next year. Yeah, I guess that's weird. Our next one is going to be next year, 2016. Wow. Things keep moving along. And what's not under them? Ooh, we are sassy tonight. Please let us know on any of our social medias, any movies that you think that we should watch. Even if we don't get to it right away, it does go on our list, and we always refer to that when trying to pick a movie. So let us know what we should watch. I feel like, what haven't we done yet? What kind of movie haven't we done yet? Like a drama? Maybe?
I don't know. Was The Women considered a drama? It was like a...
Yeah, I guess
I feel like drama is like kind of... You got comedy, drama, or... What is that? Love drama? What is it called?
Like a romantic comedy.
Romantic drama. I'm sorry. It's had a long day.
A long day.
I'm trying to chug coffee before
Rear Window, yeah. We are going to be doing a Hitchcock in the future. We are going to be bringing on a special guest to join us for a Hitchcock film. So there will be one coming. I just don't know when it's going to be on the schedule yet. But yeah, let us know what your recommendations are going to be, or Niagara. Let us know what your recommendation is in our social medias, because unfortunately the comment system that goes on during the live streams does not transition over to the YouTube channel. So once I close out the window, it's pretty much gone. So thank you guys so much for coming out for our live stream today, and thank you very much, JL and Heather. So if you don't follow them, go do so. What are you, nuts? Are you crazy? Follow them on all the social medias. JL can be found as a Modern Retro Gal, and Heather as How to Be Fancy. Anything you guys wanted to say? Anything going on that you wanted to talk about before we...
Your balls are
my balls! balls. Oh, the other one's about ready to fall, too. Does anybody have any tips on how to hang your balls so they don't fall? Oh, I have thumbtacks. Maybe I should try that. Drop your balls. We should make a Facebook page for Class C Chicks. Then we can post our film ideas. That's a really good idea.
Ooh, yeah.
Good idea.
Thank you for your suggestion.
We will make that happen.
I think, I was just going to say one thing that the three of us had sort of talked about too with movie suggestions that had thought about looking into, like not totally modern, but some more modern movies that were period set. We were looking at things from like the 80s, 70s and 80s that were sort of period set. So, classic iconic movies, things like Grease and Cry Baby, and I feel like there was something else, but things like that. So with your ideas, if you've got movies like that, don't be afraid to throw those into the mix, because that's something that we've been thinking about adding in also.
Art.
Yeah.
Kidding.
Oh, all right. Bonnie and Clyde. Oh, yeah, that's a good suggestion, too. Heather, you're doing holiday videos out over on your channel as well, aren't you? Or what you got going on over there?
I just filmed this hair tonight, so that should be up. It may go up tomorrow, it may go up next week, but it'll be up in the next 7 days. Yeah, holiday hair and makeup right now.
Which your hair is looking on point. So, JL, what do you got going on over? Are you doing anything on the YouTubes right now?
I was supposed to film today and I didn't. So hopefully I will get a cruelty-free drugstore favorites coming up, which will sort of be like an ongoing thing. It's going to be kind of my holy grails. That's going to be part of it. And then I think I'm hoping next week to get makeup on. Doing makeup on my face.
There we go.
On the tubes.
On the tubes. Follow them both on Periscope as well. They do, because some days when we want to do stuff, we Periscope because no editing. Little Women with Kathleen Hepburn. Ooh, that's a good one. Holiganza is going on right now on a Vintage Vanity, which is basically some holiday videos sprinkled with some other things as well. As you can tell, we got the background. With my fallen balls. If you're in the Chicago area, on Sunday, I will be vending Atomic Starlet at the Christmas market. AtomicStarlet.com, get your vintage skirts for Christmas. Get the whole collection. There's there.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at marketing myself. It makes me feel awkward.
We should buy her skirts. You won't regret it. I promise you. I promise. Promise. I have lots of them.
Yeah, you
Dale
do. You
has
are
her
away.
And I'm super jealous.
Real quick, we have some other suggestions. Sunset Boulevard, Music Man, and Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. We were close. We almost Seven Brides it. Do you know?
I have to do that one just so that we can appease the Seven Brides for Seven Brothers audience. There could be.
I think it will happen. Well, when I was little, I wanted 7 children, and I was going to name them all in alphabetical order as they did so in the movie. As you can tell, that didn't happen in my life. My first cat, though, does start with an A, but the second one is an E, so I skipped a couple letters.
I was gonna say you need to get some more cats.
You have to work on that.
Failed on 2 levels.
I think the factory might be closed on that one.
Well, if you would quit dropping your balls.
It's like I don't know how things work. I'm not you just juggled them.
This is the stuff that you don't normally see. Like, usually we sign off, and then this is what happens after.
Yeah, exactly.
You're getting a little TS tonight.
I know.
A
You're
little bit.
getting a treat of the behind the scenes.
All right. So, I am going to sign us out of here. Come see us next month for another live stream, Too Many Balls. And we will see you all on the social medias in the meantime. I hope you guys, if you do celebrate, I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. If you do not celebrate, I hope you have a wonderful remainder to the next 2 months, right? Oh, somebody's suggesting Carrie. You know, according to Etsy, Carrie would be vintage, because anything from the 1980s back is vintage.
Yeah.
Which is weird to me. All right, guys, I hope you have a great night. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.